Naira continues its downward slide against the dollar. Last week, the Naira exchange for, just listen to this, 526 Naira to a dollar, losing 26% in 4 weeks. Meanwhile, the federal government says the country must borrow or the economy will continue to regress. The Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, said to sustain the 5.01% gross domestic product GDP growth recorded in the second quarter of 2021, government must continue to borrow to invest in critical infrastructure for investments required for business activities. This kind of economy, but let's start from the Naira. Let's start from the Naira. Say the Naira 526 to a dollar. I would say we've never had it this bad. No, it happened before. I think it was 506 or 510.
Yes.
It has never gotten to.
This is a record. This is a record. There are people who have said, look, it will get to 600 by December. There's no strategy, no concrete strategy in place to stop this.
Because the pound is said to be, they are selling fund for 700 or something now.
So, I don't even know how much.
Yes,
I'm so used to my Naira. Now, when that decision was taken to get the BDCs off the sale of dollars, I hoped in my heart that it will work. But as we have seen, that method is not working. We don't know whether the CBN governor will go back to his vomit, because he's done that before. There was a time that he stopped selling to BDCs. When the Naira began a free fall, he went back. So we don't know what he will do this time. For many people, the gap between the parallel market rate and the official rate is the reason we have this problem. You cannot have a gap so wide as not less than 100 Naira, and you expect that rent seeking will stop. Rent seeking will get worse. You have now given banks opportunity to continue the rent seeking that BDCs were doing. Because let's face it, every week you release about $100 million to the Forex market. It is the banks that take this money, warehouse this money, and are meant to get it to the end users. Now, with the official and unofficial exchange rate so far apart, it is an incentive to speculators. It's an incentive even to the banks to take this money and give Forex sellers, the local Forex sellers, because they know that they will get good returns. Look, every week about 10 billion comes to people who have done nothing, because the people who sell this currency now, they do not do any work. The CBN merely presents the money to them, present the dollars, $100 million to them every week, go and sell, and you make, if you can do your Kone business, then you will make 10 billion for them to share across board. Politicians will have their share in it, banks will have their share, agents will have their shares in it. It's just unfortunate. I've suggested before that the CBN governor needs to ask himself some salient questions. At the time you became CBN governor, the currency was exchanging at around 165 Naira to the dollar. Wow. You are now on 526. How do you explain that? It means your methods are not working. And if your methods are not working, what do you then do?
Throw in the towel.
You throw in the towel. That's the way it's done everywhere else.
From 160 something,
165, yeah, 165, around 165. It was not up to 200. I know that. It was not up to 200. It over around that. Now we are on 526. Who knows where we will end up at the end of this year?
The prospect of going down, getting back to 360, that it was for some months, many months.
The demand for Forex in our country will keep going up because of corruption. People steal money. You get bribed to the tune of 1 billion. You will go, if they tell you that it is exchanging at 1 million naira to a dollar, you will easily release it because it's not money that you work for. You get the point that I'm making. You will exchange it because you want to store it. You want to convert the 1 billion that you have stolen to cash, and then you get it in dollars, you go and keep. It is not any economic formula that is responsible for our own extreme demand for the dollar. It is driven by corruption, largely driven by corruption, because they are the ones looking for the money to exchange after being bribed in naira terms.
Emeka, so if you have to, like, say you are going on vacation in the US at the end of the day now, and you have to carry sackload of naira to exchange in dollar, that's in, let's say you and your family are going now, maybe you need a minimum of 10 million naira to convert to this kind of dollar. You know how crazy this is.
Well, it's very sad. It's very sad, and yes, the CBN governor has to just give way, because what it shows is that all his interventions, all his acrobatics are not doing any good, you know, to Nigerians. You know, they're not doing any good to the Nigerian economy. And then again, the pressure on the naira has to be eased, because so many things are competing for the scarce dollars in the, you know,
the pressure for dollar, you want to say?
Yeah, sorry, the pressure for dollar rather should, you know, has to be, something has to be done about it. Okay, look at
even within Lagos, some transactions are carried out in dollars.
People have gone on pilgrimage. People are on Christian pilgrimage right now. Of course, you can imagine how much has been, you know, taken away from the system, you know, to fund that. And then you keep having, you know, uncoordinated actions
abroad.
Yeah, basically doing, and then luxuries. Nigerians are also subsidizing luxuries for the wealthy, for the elite. We are subsidizing luxuries for these people. So a lot of these things need to be curbed. You know, we need to look at a lot of these things so that we can save the naira. Because Jide is talking of 600, it might just snowball to 1,000.
So you just pack up and go now?
No, it's not about packing up and going. Certain people should pack up and go, like the CBN government should pack up and go. You know, and then let's have a more coherent policy, because it's not helping.
The solution is production. If we remain the way we are not producing, there is no way that our currency will be strong.
Local substitutes to a lot of things that are important need to be looked for.
Kolawole, we're told that we stand the risk of this 526 even moving to $600 for
600
naira per dollar. Did it? Okay. So what we're trying to so how do we now? Okay, the second part of this is, to me, is very annoying. That we need to borrow our way out of this present situation we're in. That, according to the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, says to sustain the 5.01% gross domestic product growth recorded in the first quarter of 2021, that we must continue to borrow.
Borrowing has implications because the soul that borrows must repay. So if you keep borrowing, you must repay, and even that is putting so much strain on us as a nation.
You know how much we repay now?
We are now what we set aside to service debt is making it difficult for us to commit a lot more to capital projects.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not, you still have, in fact, the debts, because these debts are denominated in dollars. So it's such a big deal. You have to repay, you have to service your debt. And I heard when Okonjo Iweala and Adesina of ADB were warning African leaders that, look, this appetite for borrowing has to be curtailed, because it will not allow you to be able to execute enough developmental projects for your people, because you have to set out what is the revenue. When we talk about the fact that we are taking too many loans, people will argue that our debt to GDP ratio is tidy, but we should be talking about debt to revenue, because the revenue that will assure you of your capacity to pay is not the GDP. And we are not making enough, we are not earning enough.
But they will argue that so far we are investing it in critical infrastructure, that this is what this government is doing. They're not using it to pay salary, that they're investing it to build railways, bridges, and...
But what I'm not opposed to even building railways. But what I want to see are projects that can repay themselves, and repay themselves quickly.
Yes.
You know, I'm not opposed to that. But look, the implication is every year as we have seen, we cannot finance our budget without borrowing. Is that the way it is everywhere? We cannot finance our budget without paying. All of the projections about revenue have not really come true.
Made it.
Yes, we have projections that suggest that we have fantasies in our heads, but we do not make those monies. So we still have to now go and borrow from here to be able to execute projects listed in our budget. So we have to work on revenue, improve our revenue. Once the revenue is improved, we block all avenues through which the resources are leaking. We will have enough to execute our project. But that's not what is happening. A lot of the revenue generating agencies, there's so much corruption there. I saw Faleke fighting with some of them the other day. They are not even remitting as they should. They are sitting, some of them are even hiding revenues that they made. They are even hiding.
Okay, yes. I have Femi. Femi is calling us from Kano. Thank you for staying with us, Femi.
My name is Femi.
Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead, Femi.
Yes, I want to thank Uncle Jide and Uncle that is beside the anchor.
Madunagu.
Yes,
Uncle Nika.
I want to contribute to what you are saying. I'm very happy that even those who are not majoring in it, they know exactly what to do. Somebody like Uncle Jide, he knows what to do when there is a situation that is arising like this. But I want to believe that the problem we have in this country is that we lack supervision. Somebody is put in a place, nobody is supervising him. Almost on daily basis, the central bank governor will come to the television twice a day to tell us his policies, and these policies are not working. To look back. And if you know those policies are not working, can't you throw in the water well and say, look, it's like all efforts, have devised solutions. I think there is lack of shame. If you are doing a thing for several years and
Thank you, Femi, for your contribution.
I'm looking forward to bumper turnover from Nigerian banks this year. Why? Because they are the ones handling Forex now.
Yes.
As I've told you, about 10 billion is made every week when CBN gives out $100 million for them to sell. The profit is huge. They are not the ones looking for the money. You know, they are just go and sell.
Okay. As our last year, we couldn't get BTA.
Yes.
We checked this year. Maybe
even though the people need it the most, the small and medium scale enterprises, the manufacturing companies that need it badly, pharmaceutical companies, a lot of them are forced to go to the parallel market to source for dollars. It's painful.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We need to increase our sources of revenue, because you see government bringing up a raft of taxes, levies and all that, but these things are in Naira. We're talking about increasing, raising our foreign reserves, and we must do all that is necessary to reduce the pressure on these reserves. Action must be taken. And then the borrowing is dangerous. It's dangerous because when we are spending, is it now 91% of our revenues on debt servicing?
Yes.
It's dangerous. No country. So are we now saying we are going to surrender the treasury to our creditors?
So what's the essence
or is it that we are going to now surrender those projects to our creditors to manage so that we can at least get some money for socially, for critical infrastructure, for social services, for security and other things? We cannot continue.
Can imagine if in
this
today's
cycle.
world we were to build this third mainland bridge, where are we going to find the money? Or if we were to build Abuja at this time, where are we going to find the money?
Can't know.
No, the question is that the borrowing needs to be. We need to review.
Fourth Mainland Bridge has been on the pipeline since how many years now?
We need to
finance it. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yes. Even power. Look at what is happening in the power sector.
Okay, I have Benga Ogurola joining us on Zoom. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
A dollar is now selling for 526 naira to a dollar and losing 26% in 4 weeks. What do you make of this situation?
Well, I remember the last time I was on the show, and that was when the new policy of CBN came into force. And the question was, would the CBN reverse this policy and all that? And we postulated then that if the policy succeeds, yes, there will be, of course, no need to reverse. But if not, then the CBN will be under pressure to reverse the policy. Well, in hindsight, we can see that probably the policy itself was not well thought of. And when we look at it holistically, we can see that nothing really has changed in the Forex policy, except for the fact that the government are no longer giving funds to the Bureau de Change as they used to. The funds that they are not giving to the Bureau de Change, which was said to be given to the banks, that it will help in helping the Naira to gain some traction against other currencies, has not worked out. And when we look at the policy of CBN, we'll see that invariably what the commercial banks were doing before now is still what they do. There's nothing that has been added to the scope in which they operated before now. It's still the same set of scope that they work within, even up to now. There's no new addition to it. So as long as these are still in force, we are not going to see any change. What we just see is that governments are not committing the funds that they normally commit into the forex market as they used to. Probably they are able to reserve those funds now. But as long as they are not ready to accommodate more scope of more scope of coverage in which this forex covers, then we'll still be operating within this same arguments whereby it's only the commercial banks that are giving funds to the public, the DCAs, the PCAs, that's what they fund. Every other thing you still have to source for it from the black market. Yeah. And one of the problems that we have in the economy is that we don't capture enough data to know where there's leakages in the system. If the Bureau de Change are also brought under a policy whereby even those that are exchanging funds from them, they are documented, they know where these funds are going, to where they are coming from. It will help the government to formulate better policy. But what we have done in a kind of cutting the Bureau de Change of is that those data that probably they might have a little glimpse into them before now, they don't have that again. So what we have in the economy now is that people are beginning to even hold dollars, as a source of edge against inflation. So you see people, rather than putting money in the bank now, they rather prefer to hold dollars. so that they against future inflations and other and other economic crises that may occur. So that is what we are having in the system now, whereby the government are, they've actually cut the issue of data, and the policy that was formulated is actually not working.
I want to thank you, Gbenga Gurila. Thank you for your contribution.